Unfortunately, a lot of us need to start accepting the truth. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to be virtually unbeatable for at least the next 10 years. And I know this is hard to listen to. I am not a Chiefs fan. I don't want it to be this way, especially because in the AFC, we went from Tom Brady dominating for 20 years, and now it looks like we're going to go into Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes dominating for the next 15. But the unfortunate thing about this is when teams are this prolific and when teams are almost guaranteed a shot to at least make a deep playoff run, free agents, other players, weapons, wide receivers, running backs, defensive weapons are going to be willing to play with this team and take massive pay cuts. When you look at last year's Kansas City Chiefs, the weapons they had outside of Travis Kelce were not elite number one guys. And the available free agents they could possibly sign, T. Higgins, Mike Evans. A lot of people are going to be saying, oh, those guys going to be looking for big contracts. They want the most amount of money possible. And maybe for any other team they would. But if you want to sit here and act like those guys wouldn't be willing to take a significant pay cut to go play on that Chiefs team with that defense and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, you're out of your minds and you're in denial. And I think some of the sports books are kind of in denial too, because when I'm looking at the odds here, they have the 49ers as the number one favorite from almost every single sports book to win the Super Bowl in 2025. And I get that roster is insane. I get that those guys have a lot of weapons, but I don't get how after the history of the last 5 years of what we've seen from Kansas City, it really should be Kansas City at the top versus the field at this point. Let's pretend you were on your last $1,000 and you had to bet it on one of these teams to win the Super Bowl. You can't tell me that you would feel comfortable and safe betting on any one of these teams over the Chiefs next year. You can't tell me that. The Ravens, I don't believe in them. The 49ers, I think Kyle Shanahan should have got fired for his decisions he made in the Super Bowl if they even make it back there and stay healthy. The Bills have shown that they clearly need to make some kind of change, either at coaching or with changing out and getting a different receiver, maybe getting Stephon Diggs traded. The Lions are a great story. I would love to see the Lions do it. I just don't think that their defense is good enough to hold up and get them there. The Cowboys, Jerry Jones is there, and as long as Jerry Jones is alive and running your team, you're never going to make the Super Bowl. I don't want to hear about them. The Bengals, Joe Burrow seems to have a hard time staying healthy. He's like an injury-riddled dude at this point. He's had 2 seasons he's basically completely missed out on over injury. And part of that's because the Bengals' offensive line is terrible, but the other part of it is the dude's injury-prone. So maybe he's a good bet if he stays healthy, but you're just crossing your fingers. The Eagles, I don't know how in the world they didn't fire their head coach. That was an absolute blowout by the end of the season. They looked so good and then crapped out at the end of the year. How does he still have a job? The Dolphins, I'm not a Tua believer. I don't think he can go play a cold weather playoff game and win it in anyone else's stadium. And I don't think they'll have a good enough record to have home field advantage until the Super Bowl. I don't think that's going to happen. Houston scares me more than any of these other teams. If big name talent goes to Houston, they scare me. The Packers, they kind of scare me a little bit more than all these other teams above them. And who knows, maybe with the Chargers, Justin Herbert finally has an elite year with a new coach and they look insane. But other than that, I got no one else that even feels like a threat to me. And it's frustrating because nobody likes to see their team get dominated every year. If you're a fan of an AFC football team, I can't imagine how frustrating it is to know you really got no shot. You really got no shot. I'm an NFC fan. I'm a Seahawks fan. We've been out of it since the terrible play in the Super Bowl. So I know what terrible losses feel like. But that's just the landscape of the NFL. And this offseason, I think we're going to see a lot of guys be willing to take pay cuts, just like they did with Tom Brady and the Patriots. Remember Randy Moss going there. Dudes are willing to take pay cuts if they feel like they're almost guaranteed a shot at a Super Bowl. And the Chiefs have turned into that team. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm out of my mind. But that's just my thoughts on this.